So you've been spending time honing your craft. You've bought the latest gear. You've learned the processing software. You shoot everything you can. All your friends and family tell you you're amazing. Everybody's asking you to come shoot this and that. But how do we get to the point where we can have paying clients? How do we turn what is our passion or possibly a hobby into either a career or a part-time business? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. I'm Daniel Norton, photographer here in New York City. I've worked for over 2 decades in the photo industry, from fashion magazines to catalogs to advertising that run in national magazines. I've had all levels of clients, from the ones that just need a quick picture to the ones that need multi-city photo shoots with thousands upon thousands of dollars of budget. How did I get these clients? How can you get those clients? In order to answer that question, we've got to hit on a few different topics here in this video, and I'm going to do just that. This is going to be a bit of a high-level video. I'll dig in where I can, but if there's something I'm talking about that you want a more specific video about, please do let me know in the comments below. And while you're there, like and subscribe to the channel. So first we're going to talk about how do you know when you're ready? Figuring out your style, getting your name out there, more so than you're already doing it. Getting your name outside of your private circle, that is. How do we find clients? How do we find the people that will pay for the work we do? Once you've found those clients, how do you reach out to them? Direct mail, email, networking? We'll talk about all those things. This is a big one here that I asked about, but negotiating. How do we know what to charge? When should we ask for more? When should we ask for less? What should the budget be on a job? Again, I'm going to go high level here, but I'll give you the tips you need to kind of get you started. Once you've nailed that job, we're going to talk about steps to making sure that you do it great, where you make no mistakes, where you get it exactly what the client wants and then some. The hardest part about client work is getting the client. One of the easiest parts, keeping them if you do it right. Make sure you always do a great job, and all these other things we're going to talk about. All in all, this is going to be a little bit of a long video, but it will be kind of a crash course in going from I have a passion, I love what I do, I'm good at it, to I can make money doing this. All right, let's talk about getting you out of your little world that you're in now so a greater number of people can find you. Today, the secret to that is truly social media and the web. Back when I first started, mailing things to people worked. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. In fact, direct mail can be part of what you do. Portfolio drop-offs can be part of what you do. But in the end, what you need is a presence online so that when the client picks up your postcard and says, oh, Daniel Norton, and they type it into their search engine, they find you. Beautiful postcard, can't find you, no client. So we need to first set up, you're going to want to invest in a domain. Now, that doesn't mean you need to build a fancy website. You can. There's lots of website companies that do this. And again, we could dig into this in other videos. But what I've found initially is just you want that, right? You want, when people ask you what your website is, to make it short and sweet. My website, dnphoto.com. When you go there, you will be directed wherever you're directed, right? If you don't have an actual site yet, direct them to your portfolio. Where's your portfolio? Instagram? That's where you send them. If your portfolio is on something else, you're a musician, it's on SoundCloud, you send them there. Make sure that little bit of info. In fact, this is a good learning point here. Go onto your Instagram and take that little tiny bio area and make it the best you possibly can. Making websites that are page after page with the portfolio after portfolio and all kinds of stuff is actually easy for you and hard for your client to negotiate. What you want them to know right away is what you do, where you are, and how you can help them. Because what we're doing as creatives is solving problems. Don't make another problem for them by making yourself hard to find. One thing that's become very important in the last 10 or 12 years is your presence as a person. Again, years ago, if you just had an awesome portfolio and nobody knew who you were basically a dud, you were a name, it was fine. You could still work. Now people want to know. They want to know what you believe, what you support. You want to be on social pushing the things that suit you, not what you think suits your client. I think that's a bad way to go about it, and some people will tell you that. If you like something, if you believe in a cause, if you, let's say, gift it to a certain charity, talk about that. And don't just say, hey, I gave money, but promote, run a drive, donate photos, let people know you're doing that. That tells you something about you as a person. If what you like to do is go on adventure vacations, put those pictures in your stories on Instagram, or maybe do a TikTok where you can do that. Put that stuff out there so people can relate to not just your amazing work, but you as a creator. When you are on set with somebody, you're a person, right? They want to deal with you. They want to spend the day. For most clients, especially the corporate type clients, their jobs are kind of boring, right? They're behind a desk every day. I mean, maybe you do a job like that now. And when they get to go to a photo shoot, they want it to be cool. So they want to know that person running that photo shoot is going to be fun. And when I say fun, doesn't mean you have to be a clown, but that they're going to connect with you. Maybe it's the music that you listen to, that you have Spotify playlists. Maybe again, it's your vacations on TikTok. Maybe it's the memes you share on Twitter. Maybe it's political posts that you do. All of this builds up to be your personality, and it should be your personality. Social proof is very important, as I said, but just getting likes and subscribers is not really true social proof. What you need is people to vouch for you. I find sites like LinkedIn work well if you are doing things like commercial and advertising work. That people from other companies that do other jobs, maybe graphic designers that you've worked with, maybe previous clients, actually say, hey, yeah, Daniel's a good photographer. That will help people know that you can do the job right. So don't just look for the likes. Look for actual referrals and actual interaction with people in your industry that will effectively vouch for you socially. Let's talk niches for a second. So one of the things I run into the most when I am mentoring young photographers, or young meaning you're new to the business, not necessarily that you're young in age. Aren't we all young at heart? Anyways, is that I will say, well, what kind of stuff do you shoot? And they'll hem and haw and a lot of times end up with, well, a little of everything. And that's fantastic. If you love photography and you love to create all kinds of different things, cool. But that's not how we market ourselves. I used to run into this problem a lot too with brands where you'd say, they want you to shoot their ad and you'd be like, well, who are we targeting with this? Well, anyone who wants to buy it. That is not a successful way to advertise. What we need to do is figure out a target audience that we want to approach. So the simplest way to do this is to look at your work, break it down into your strongest pieces, maybe 10, and then see if there's a theme there. My feeling is there probably is a theme. Maybe you shoot a lot of senior portraits, maybe you shoot a lot of landscape, maybe you shoot product, maybe you shoot documentary. Whatever it is, you will see a trend in what you're doing. Then what we need to do is decide, first of all, is it too big? Are you just shooting senior portraits, but they're everywhere? Some are inside, some are outside, some are this way, some are that side. There's no real style to it. If that's the case, we want to niche down a little closer, but let's assume that we find something that's kind of working. What we want to do now is look at it and say, who that would want this kind of work so much that they will pay for it. So let's say, for instance, that you are a portrait photographer. Let's say headshots. You shoot headshots for actors. Let's say that's where you look, you see a lot of great portraits of actors that you've made. You think, you know what, actors need headshots. That's a commodity, right, that they might want to purchase. So that's somebody who will pay for pictures. So when we look at our stuff, let's say you've got some headshots against nice clean white background in the studio, some stuff's in location, in a building, like lit up, some other stuff's natural light outside. Again, if we want people to come to us, we want to make it very obvious what we do. That is to say, you may lose some clients because they're looking for, let's say, a white background shot if you don't show one. But of course, if they at least reach out to you, you can show them additional shots, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But what you love to do is to take these actors out on a location, let's say, and shoot with beautiful natural light and really have a good time exploring, and kind of that's the way you like to work, use those images as your baseline. If you've only got a handful, but that's your favorite, refocus and shoot more before you start your marketing. Start to create a niche that's within a niche so that effectively you're a headshot photographer who specializes in beautiful natural light location shots. Or maybe it's beautiful natural light shots in a studio. Like I have a daylight studio. When I first moved in here, I shot headshots, mostly natural light with the windows. It was a great business. People love the natural feel. And later, as I got more and more clients, I learned, and if you watch some of my other videos, how to light the space up so I could make that natural look anytime. And I would use it even during the day to show people I could do it so they'd come back to me. They wouldn't feel like, oh, I can only get that natural light when I shoot in the space. Daniel can always do it. So I became somebody that created a very natural looking shot for actors and models. In fact, agencies would often say to me, we use you because you let the models look the way they look, which seems like a funny thing to me. But anyways, now, once you have that niche, so again, you're the guy or girl that creates the beautiful natural light headshots, now you can really start to focus down, because here we are. We've got a very specific group of people that are looking for your work. All right, so you've got your niche. You are a natural light location headshot photographer, right? You go to the people and you shoot somewhere around where they live, making it very comfortable for them, maybe in their backyard or on their street. You show versatility in creating images on location with natural light. That's your deal. So how do we find clients, right? I already mentioned that you need to be on social media. So of course you want to follow all of the types of places that your clients would follow. What other things do actors follow? What are actors interested in? Become part of those groups and those communities. But as far as the direct reaching out, what I found works best in things like this, where you're doing what I like to call retail photography, that is to say you're reaching out directly to the clients, is find fairs, find schools, find places where somebody is new to the industry and they are reaching out looking for sources. Go there, set up your table. It might cost a little bit of money, it might not, depending on the situation. Maybe you just have to offer a discount. I used to go to some of the acting schools here in New York, some of the bigger ones. They'd be this big room and we'd all have a table. I used to use my laptop. Some people brought TVs in and I would just have images circling across it. I would have postcards I could hand out. I'd have business cards. I'd also take their information on a mailing list if they wanted it. That way they could stay in touch on any discounts, just in case they didn't want the headshot right now, but maybe in the future. Okay, let's talk about budget. So now you've reached out, you've put your shingle out, as it would be. People are coming to you and they're asking you the same thing. No matter what industry you're in, whether you're doing more of a retail to customer photography, whether you're doing massive advertising accounts, people will always ask you, how much does it cost? And one important thing to keep in mind here is that information is key here. So I'm going to approach it from two different angles so you can see how it works. If you are somebody who produces what I'm going to call retail photography, again, you're selling directly to the person in the photo, a headshot, sports pictures, that kind of stuff, then you want to clearly set up front what the person's going to get and what you offer. The way you find out what to charge is to look around and see what other people are charging. See what people are paying in your area and charge about that much. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but don't just undercut people. That's bad. You'll be known as the cheap person. Once you have a price in mind, break that down. If you're getting paid by the hour, if you're getting paid by the shot, if you're getting paid by the finished shot, if you're getting paid on a project basis, and what is delivered within that price, and also what's not. That is, what's extra. For instance, when I first moved to New York and I was doing a lot of headshots, at first I included retouching in my cost. But back then, almost every actor got their headshots printed at the same place, and that place required you to basically get the color correction done with them, which made sense, really. And they included 10 minutes of retouching. And let me tell you something, these people that retouch headshots all day long for people were faster and more efficient than I ever would be. So I took it out. I'd be like, I don't give you retouch shots. And people would be like, well, why not? And I'd say, because you're going to have to get it anyways from these people. It's going to be better. So because of that, I didn't have to charge them for retouching. Now, if they wanted me to retouch the shot because they knew me, I had retouched something before, that would be an extra. And I made sure that was listed. Also, the idea of how many pictures do I get to keep? Do I get all the JPEGs? Do I get RAW files? Do I get all the images as TIFFs? How do I get them? Make sure people know what they're getting. If you're not planning on giving them any digital files and you plan on selling them prints, they need to know that. Make sure that's in your budget up front. Now, on a more commercial level, what you need to do is the opposite. In that sense, you're giving them tons of information. What you need to do is get information. Ask a lot of questions. When people say, what is your day rate? Don't just answer that. Ask them what the job is. Ask where it's going to be published. Ask what the circulation is. Ask if there's sets to be built. Are we going to need a crew? Or if you think you're going to need a crew, get all this information and then tell them you'll get back to them. What I've found for corporate type jobs, it's never a good idea just to quote a price over the phone as soon as they call, because that is a sign of somebody who hasn't been around very much. Most people doing this work are going to take the information, write up an estimate, and send it to the client. They're not going to just, oh yeah, I charge $2,000 a day. That's the sign of somebody that probably isn't going to do the best job because they're not even asking questions. $2,000 a day, what? Okay, did you realize that you have to climb to the top of Mount Everest before you gave me that price? I mean, get all the information up front. So one quick thing about pricing, I know I said look at your competitors, that's what you want to do. What you want to do as well is make sure you think about all your expenses. And I mean everything. If it's going to cost you money to drive there, if you're going to have to rent a piece of gear, if you're going to need an assistant, if you need to buy food while you're out, if there's tolls, get all that calculated up and mark all that up a bit. So that way you have some wiggle room if something extra happens. You don't want to be so tight on your budget that when the client is like, oh man, it'd be nice to have a coffee, you can't just go, let me buy you one. And then you're taking it out of your pocket. You want to have factored that in, but don't put client's coffee on the budget because yeah, that won't fly. Okay, so tying back into this, negotiating. Again, if you have a fixed price, you're a retail type photographer, then negotiating probably isn't going to be an issue unless you're doing something on a mass level. That is to say, if a school comes to you and says, hey, we know that you charge $500 for a headshot, but we have 60 students that will all get headshots from you. Can we get a better deal? Yeah, you probably want to do that. You still want to factor out how much time is involved. That is, again, if you're doing retouching, every extra person doesn't just add an extra 45 minutes of shooting, it adds maybe half a day of retouching. That matters. Factor all that in before you give any kind of discount, but certainly be open to that. In a more commercial sense, and this is going to be somewhat blasphemy, but I found it works really great for me, is that whenever a client comes to me, especially if they're an existing client that's done stuff before, you can see they come to you to shoot a catalog, they've got catalogs, they show you examples of their catalogs. Ask them how much they paid the last guy. When they say, how much will it cost for you to shoot the spring catalog, say, well, what was your budget last year? It's funny, I would say 90% immediately are shocked by the fact that you asked them, but then they come around and they give it to you. I mean, why wouldn't they? They have that budget. Sure, everybody's looking to pinch a penny, but at the same time, it's fine. Now, if you look at that budget, and even if it's more than you would normally charge, I generally would not charge less. So let's say that they paid $100,000 for the catalog to be shot last year. And you think to yourself, I could do this for $95,000. Charge $110,000. Why? If they're coming to you and they already had a photographer, that means they're not happy with the work they're getting. So it never pays for you to undercut something that's already there. The only exception to this would be as if they came to you and said, look, we normally pay this person, they won't come down on their price, can you do it for? And at this point, they should be giving you a number. You shouldn't be stabbing in the dark at lower numbers. Go back and forth, keep it friendly, make sure there's a little wiggle room, and then I always in every estimate put, this is an estimate. Any changes within 5% of the total here can be done without client approval. Over 5% must be approved by the client on the day of the shoot. The other thing I ask for is 50% upfront. Once everybody agrees on everything, send your estimate, make sure they sign it, they date it, you sign it, you date it, you send it in, you're good. Wait till you get that money. The other thing you want to do, I told you about the 50% front, is make sure you have clear terms of payment after the job is complete. Whether it be the balance due on the day of the shoot, the balance due within 30 days of delivery, etc. Figure out what's normal for your industry. Typically in retail photography, you get paid on the day. That's it. That includes weddings. Commercial photography is usually 30 days out. That's why you need to get in advance, because if you don't, all your help is going to be waiting for you to pay them, and you're going to be racking up credit card bills for things you had to buy for the shoot that now you're paying interest on. So make sure that's all in your contract. You don't have to go crazy, but you want to make sure it's clear and concise. All right, so you've got the job. You negotiated, they love your work, you talk to them, you got this whole thing all set, you're ready to go. How do we make sure that we keep a client? And this is the key. All this work that you did, you don't want to have to repeat that over and over again. What you want to do is, once you have that client, you nurture them and you let them grow and they stay with you, and that's how we build a business. So here's the thing. My advice to you is treat every single shoot, whether it be a quick shoot for the client, a full-blown production for the client, something, a little side thing, treat everything like it's a full-blown professional shoot, always. When I had my first studio in Miami, I shared it with a guy who did a lot of product photography. And he did it for some of the bigger advertising agencies. Every once in a while, like maybe 4 or 5 times a year, he'd do a big job, a big production. But almost weekly, he did these tiny jobs, like really minimal budget jobs. He was making probably barely more than I was as a photo assistant after expenses. But even on those jobs, he put out food, drinks. He made sure there was music. He used an assistant even though he didn't necessarily have to. Why? Because when those clients show up, they don't want to feel like, clients, they always want to, cut back on the money, but they don't want to feel like the shoot's been cut back on. No matter what, they should feel like the shoot is a full-blown production. Think more about keeping the client long-term than every single penny when you're first starting. That's not to say you should lose money or whatever and not get paid for the things that you put into the shoot. But at the same time, we're thinking long-term here. And if it took you 6 months to land this client and you can make $50 more by not having food on this one shoot, but that risks not having them anymore, is that worth it? No, definitely not. Think about every shoot as if it is top of the line professional shoot. Put everything into it. One thing that I like to do, especially if it's a new client or if it's even with a regular client, or if it's a bigger production shoot, is ideally, if you can, have an assistant helping you. Give that assistant a checklist. And this checklist is something that, not just stuff for them to do, but that you can refer back to throughout the day and tell them, say, listen, I'm going to get busy. I'm going to be frantic. Check in with me every hour so we can look at this list. Just pull me aside for a second. We'll just look at it. Make sure we're getting everything done. Make sure we're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, as they say. Because the other thing that can happen on a photo shoot is you get so wrapped up. Like, let's say, for instance, and I had a client like this where the owner would come and also like their kind of partner. He wasn't, I'm not sure their exact rank, but he basically helped run the company. He was part of the marketing. And the marketing guy was always like watching the shoot, whatever going on. But every once in a while, the owner would come and be like, oh, I don't like that. And the thing is that I learned early on to check in with that owner every time we had a good Polaroid or we were shooting digital, when we had one we really liked. I immediately, before we moved on to the next one, I was like, well, hold on, let's see what they think. Boom. That way they feel respected. They feel like you're going out of your way for them. And also you don't have to reshoot something. Treat everything like it's a big shoot, even if it's small. That's how we keep our clients. Be in touch with them as the shoot builds up. Be professional on the day of the shoot. Make sure that they are comfortable and they got what they wanted. Follow up after the shoot. Follow up with, the immediate retouches and all the stuff that has to be done for the shoot, but also follow up a week or so later, thanking them, maybe send them a little gift or a card. Do something and make sure it's something. Here's where physical comes in. We've talked a lot about digital, but here's where you want to send them something. Send them an actual card in the mail thanking them, not an email. Because this is when it matters. They don't know who you are. You send them a card in the mail, that person's going to throw it away. A physical card, they know you took the time to do it. So little things like that will matter, and that's how we keep our clients. Your clients are your best source for new business. So it's super important, obviously, to keep them happy and for them to be long-lasting clients and this and that, but some of my best clients I've got from other clients. People in industries, well, of course they're competing with each other, especially if they're exactly the same product, but if they have fringe things, like let's say that you, for instance, I used to shoot for this wedding dress company. They hooked me up with a company that did wedding accessories, right? That was a company that was in their same business that was not a direct competition to them, so they didn't, care about giving away their photographer. But I've even had that same company recommend other wedding dress companies to me because, why not, right? It's a friendly competition in a lot of industries. You're a business person. They understand that. They're not going to be mad at you because you shot for the competition in this case. Obviously, if you take the exact same shoots and do it for them, they might not like that. But as long as you keep it professional, Most people are happy to refer you if they had a good experience. Okay, so that's an overview on how to get your first client. We talked about figuring out your niche, figuring out who would pay you, how to get your name out there, how to meet other creatives, how to set your pricing, how to negotiate it, how to do a great job on set, and how to keep your clients. This is all important. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please do subscribe. But also, if there's any one of these points you want to see me dive into in an in-depth video, please do let me know in the comments below what interests you the most here, and we'll dig into it. This is going to be a series. But your assignment right now, sit down, figure out your niche. Really examine your work. Figure out what your niche will be, and let me know in the comments below. I'll talk to you soon.